have the Ayatollah of fantasy rock and roller with us today, Adam Rank. How you doing, Rank?
They look great in person, and I just can't wait till next year where we can pack it full of 25,000.
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. I didn't know it was Ball Guys Day. It was being ranked. I mean, how can you lose?
This is the Dynasty Vipers Vipercast.
Raw, I'm on Raw. This is the Dynasty Vipers Vipercast, episode 147, presented by the Fantasy Points Media Group. Joining me, as always, the main man himself, the College of the Canyons alumni, Major Caldwell. How you doing tonight, Major?
I'm good, man. Let's get this going.
And with the camera, the best camera in the business right now, we have T-Sizzle, the backpedaling Viper herself, Tera Roberts. How you doing this week?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm ready to backpedal, over-explain, use some stats. I'm good to go.
Like it.
Hey, we are ready for stats. I mean, even our group chat this week, we were dropping stats in there. I don't know if Major actually got around to reading them. I'm pretty confident as soon as numbers are brought up into that group chat, Major just kind of blocks us and mutes us after that. So, but don't worry, we're going to talk stats. We're going to talk numbers. And of course, if you've seen the thumbnail, the graphic before the show even started, we are going to talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown because there's no way you could talk fantasy football these days without talking about a top 5 fantasy wide receiver moving forward. Well, hey, maybe it's bold, maybe it's not, but we'll get into it. We've got an action-packed show. Our mailbag, it filled up this week, so we're going to be answering those questions. We're going to look at some news and notes. We're going to break down Thursday Night Football the only way we know how, props, DFS, and a general breakdown. If you want to catch more of that breakdown, head over to our show on YouTube right now. I did a little bit of a breakdown there on the Cleveland Browns versus the Pittsburgh Steelers on Thursday Night Football. You can catch that in its entirety. It's about 12 minutes of your time. Well worth it. And let's get into the show here, talking about, we had some big news, probably the biggest of the week here as far as fantasy is concerned. Major, I know you've got your thumb there on the pulse in San Francisco. You are a San Francisco 49er fan. Tell us about Trey Lance and him being done for the season, having ankle surgery. The good news is, hey, 49ers fans, if you're looking for a silver lining in all of this, it's not that compound fracture that Dak Prescott had to deal with a couple years ago. It's bad, but it's not that bad. Major, over to you.
It's still bad, but aren't we happy that we kept Jimmy G? I know all of us, we wanted to get rid of him so bad. There's even like I think it's a girl on Twitter. She's drawing Jimmy G every day until he gets traded. I think she's like on 280, 258. I don't know. It's a lot of drawings of him in different scenarios. I wish I had the actual page.
Let's be honest. This is exactly why John Lynch never got rid of Jimmy G, because he's actually enjoying these cartoons. I think today it was like Thanos, I am inevitable.
Yeah, it was. Exactly. But no, honestly, it's really sad for Lance. I think he was just about to start getting something going there. Like, he made some amazing throws in like the one game he actually got to throw, because the first game was pretty much underwater. But yeah, it's sad, man, especially seeing young players get hurt. I always talk about it. I hate that. But you know, when Jimmy G came in, I hate to say it, looked like the offense moved a little bit easier there. So no slight on Lance, but it just felt like Jimmy G had a better command of the offense at this point in his career. So happy we still have him, and I apologize for all the crap I've spoken on your name for the past I don't know how long, but let's see what happens.
Hey, Jimmy, I've been in your corner the entire time. I just want to show that right now. And another quarterback whose corner we've been in, Tera, since day one. We've been in Team Tua Tagovailoa since the beginning of the offseason kicked off here. This has been a pro Tua show. Tera, 739 passing yards so far this season, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. How are we feeling about Tua moving forward?
We'll talk about this week specifically in a little bit, but moving forward in general, feeling really good about him. I mean, I think we're finally seeing him in a system that he's actually comfortable in. We're seeing him surrounded by talent. We're seeing an organization and a regime that is focused on making Tua successful. And this is the guy that we saw in college. This is the guy that we thought he was going to be. He can sling the ball. We're seeing him do incredible things. So I'm happy for him. This is good Tua.
Well, while we're speaking of good Tua here, I'm going to stick with you here on this one, Tera. When you look at the top 3 passing leaders in the National Football League, Tagovailoa, Carson Wentz, Joe Flacco, what are we supposed to make out of this right now? I know this isn't sustainable, but this is crazy. I know it's only 2 weeks, but are we buying anything here? Like, is this something? Are any of these 3 going to be in the top 5 at season's end?
I think no. That's a long time to sustain absolutely nothing going sideways for a couple of these guys. But I think we're seeing, volume. That's what matters in fantasy football. You want these guys that are going to be going out there and throwing 40 plus attempts. That's how you get these good situations where it doesn't matter if you've got a Carson Wentz who's out there throwing bombs and 4 touchdowns and a couple interceptions. It doesn't matter. So yeah, I'm not buying that these guys are going to be top 5 quarterbacks for the long term, but they're perfectly fine starters. And it's cool. I like seeing it. I like seeing these lower named quarterbacks that are able to jump in and be fantastic streaming options. And I appreciate what they're doing for some of us that might have drafted Dak Prescott in a couple places.
Well, I just love Carson Wentz and Tua Tagovailoa there just because we've been right on them so far this season on this show. We've been in both their corners here through the first couple weeks. Now, Major, Tom Brady's out there smashing Microsoft tablets. Meanwhile, Mike Evans is smashing DBs here. How are we feeling about Mike Evans defending Tom Brady's honor there in week number 2? I mean, you knew it was coming. Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Evans, something is always going down between these two.
Honestly, I don't really know how I feel about it. At first, I was like, yeah, protect your teammate. But then I looked at the video closely, and you see Mike Evans come through just knocking people out. And then you see Tom Brady just kind of walking back. So I hope he's taking care of all his fines and whatnot and making sure he's comfortable and everything. I hope Tom does that because Tom did not protect his boy like his boy protected him. And that's just like rule 101, like man code 101. You protect the people that protect you. But I'm all for it. Sometimes you got to fight for your quarterback, but your quarterback should fight along your side instead of stepping back and letting you do all the dirty work. That felt a little weird, but it is what it is.
My feeling right now is, well, we know Mike Evans, he is appealing that suspension. I don't know if the appeal's actually gone through yet, but I know that was going down today. They talked about doing it here. So by the time you're watching this video, the chances are we're going to hear a little bit more on Mike Evans. But probably more than anything here, as soon as Mike Evans is back in this lineup, Tom Brady, his way of repaying him is by peppering the crap out of him. You're talking about a wide receiver who's going to see 12 to 15 targets per game for the next few weeks there. So don't worry, Tom Brady's got him covered coming back. It's part of his TB12 program. Now, a couple players here, one player, Tera, that should be on this Tom Brady 12 program instead of the 12 receiving yards program is Kyle Pitts. What do we do? We're watching some high stakes leagues now in the FPPC. They're not even starting Kyle Pitts. This is where the money's at. They're not willing to start Kyle Pitts here. And can you blame them? 2 receptions, 19 yards, and back-to-back weeks.
I can't blame them, and I honestly don't think it's going to get much better. Do I think it'll be this low every single week? But I'm worried that when we were looking at this, I know a lot of people were, myself included, saying, okay, this is great. Drake London being drafted. This is fantastic. It'll take some of that attention away from Kyle Pitts. He'll be able to get a little bit more free. I think what we might be seeing is that it's more so Drake London who is benefiting from the existence of Kyle Pitts in reverse. So I don't know. And Atlanta doesn't seem like they, I guess when you look at it and we look at, let's say, Matt LaFleur in Green Bay, and the lack of usage of Aaron Jones in week 1. Matt LaFleur literally looked at that and said, yeah, man, I was wrong, and went out and corrected it. Mm-hmm. Whereas we're coming down here with Arthur Smith in Atlanta, and we're saying, hey, why is Kyle Pitts not getting those looks? It's not oh, yeah, man, we need to give him more looks. The response is, well, this is not fantasy football. It's so these are 2 different situations for me. I don't know if they're really incentivized to make the offense run through him as much as we would like.
In 2016, Gerald Butler starred in a movie called London is Falling. There was explosives. There was fireworks all over the place. Right now in Atlanta, London is falling, and it is absolutely the pits for fantasy managers. Yes, Major. I had to get that one in just for you. Now, we have to talk about this. The Cowboys, they're 1-1 right now, and their one victory came courtesy of Cooper Rush. Is Cooper Rush an upgrade on this Dallas Cowboys offense at this point in time? Major.
I mean, anybody with the name Cooper in the NFL, like, go and grab them off the wire, get them on your team, just in case. Every Cooper in the league is kind of balling right now, but I was surprised. He came out there and looked like a veteran. He didn't look shook. The situation wasn't too big for him. So I think they may be in good hands. Maybe Dallas finally, like, figured out something that we all didn't know, because it seems like they don't know what they're doing there half the times, but it seemed like they didn't go and get a veteran quarterback and was happy with Cooper Rush. But yeah, you always want to have Dak, but it seemed like they may be in good hands with Cooper Rush. Maybe we might have a Kurt Warner situation, maybe. I don't know.
All right, let's not go that far, but we are hanging with Mr. Cooper.
You got to get bold. You got to get bold.
Isn't Cooper Manning supposed to have the best Manning child there at quarterback too? Isn't he supposed to be the next Manning?
Good point.
Everything's coming up Cooper here lately. Now, a couple quick things I want to touch on right now. The Bengals, they have lost to both Mitch Trubisky and Cooper Rush. Let that sink in for a minute. I mean, Bengals 0-2. It's not looking good right now. I hate to say it. That offensive line, all that protection that was brought in the offseason. Hey, we're guilty. I'm guilty myself. I thought it was going to be a difference maker. It has not. They've actually gotten worse. I mean, we talked about bodyguards there and whatnot. And Lel Collins was talking about, I'm the bodyguard. I'm not going to let anyone touch it. Well, yeah, that hasn't worked out too well. And finally, Russ is cooking. Unfortunately, it is soggy wieners and alphagettis right now. And it is not. I mean, this is a meal I had. Like,
again. Thank you.
It's basically a meal that you have in high school or something you can't afford in college. Even poor college kids were making ramen noodles, a little bit of ramen on the side there. I don't know what Russ is cooking, but whatever it is, it's giving the Denver Broncos food poisoning right now. So let's get into our winners and losers for week number 2. Starting with you, Major. Give me a winner. Give me a loser. What do you got?
I'm going to give you my winner here, man. And we kind of spoke about him earlier, but if you tuned into the Fantasy Points Extra Point Show with Nick Chubb and myself every Sunday, 10:30 Eastern Time, 7:30 Pacific, I called Tua. I said he's going to get more than 1.5 touchdown passes. And what did he do? He went out there and threw 6 of those boys. So I knew it was only a matter of time. Like, if you go back and look at that playback, I called the game before the game happened. I said Hill was going to get involved. I said Waddle's going to still get what he's getting. And then he just went crazy, man. So Tua, like, shout outs to Tua. Everyone's talking about how he can't throw the ball downfield. Everyone's talking about everything except him balling. I always knew that you have 2 players on your team that can take a 5-yard play and turn into a 90-yard play at any given moment. Your job's going to be way easier. You're going to play with more confidence. And I think that's one of the things that you see in Tua that's different than the years prior is he's playing with a lot of confidence now. And for my losers, we just spoke about them. Again, the Bengals O-line, like, I don't know what's going on. Cincinnati is 0-2, and I think the main reason is the O-line. Burrow's been sacked 13 times in the first 2 games. And 6 sacks in 1 game. The Cowboys defense got to him 6 times and took him down. So Williams, Volson, Karras, Kappa, Collins, we need to get together, man. Like, if this team has any hopes of making it back to the game, to the big game, they're going to have to get that line situation together. You have the best wide receiver core in the NFL, and you can't do anything with it. And one of the best running backs in the NFL, you can't do anything with it because you can't do anything up front. So I don't know if it's a coaching thing. They maybe need to scheme some stuff up a little differently, help these guys out. Maybe Burrow is holding the ball a little too long, maybe. I don't know, but someone needs to get in there and figure that out because right now it's looking ugly.
Well, I just want to touch on your Tua there, your Waddle, your Hill kind of comments, because on Fridays, I do a Friday night hype show there with Fantasy Points, and I'm going to be talking about the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills showdown this week. But per NFL research, the Dolphins were the first team in NFL history with a player recording 400-plus passing yards, 5+ touchdowns. That was Tua. along with 2 teammates recording 170 plus receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. And that's Waddle and Hill in the same game. I mean, what happened there at Miami against the Ravens? That has never been done in NFL history. So you know why we love Tua? Because he's a history maker. He's a record breaker. He is all things, all people, and one day, maybe even one lucky woman. Now, let's move on to you, Tera, here. Who are your winners and losers for week number 2?
They're so funny. My winner is it's Stefan Diggs. You know, while we had these other big name receivers, we had these other new big name receivers, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, who had these fantastic big boom show off week 1s and then came down to earth. They came back down to reality a little bit. And we had Stefan Diggs, who said, I'm not just going to be hot in week 1. I'm going to be even hotter in week 2. 12 receptions on 14 targets, 148 yards, 3 touchdowns. Who's our wide receiver 1? Is looking very interesting. Stefan Diggs is one of those guys who, he has the capabilities of being a top 5 receiver. He's never reached that top level. I'm wondering now if he's going to be able to achieve it. Now he's got that fantastic connection with Josh Allen. I'm loving what I'm seeing out of him. He was the big winner of the week for me. And then, my losers of the week, it's a collective group, all pass catchers in Chicago. Oh my God. So awful. I'm gonna rant a little bit because this is absolutely one of the most ridiculous things I have ever seen. Are they truly? I'm shocked. They're seriously sitting here and limiting Justin Fields to less pass attempts than even Matt Nagy allowed. I don't get it. Because here's the big issue with me, and like Chicago, please hear me out when I say this. We know you had zero intention of competing this year. You made that very clear when instead we talk about Tua and the way that Miami went out and surrounded him by talent. They went out and got Tyreek. We look at Jalen Hurts going out and getting him AJ Brown. Everything that was done for Zach Moss as well. These teams care about their pass catcher, their quarterbacks. They're trying to will them to success. In Chicago, you made it clear you had zero intention of doing that. So if you don't want to compete, if you're going for a high draft pick, what is the problem of letting Justin Fields loose and actually be able to throw the ball so he can at least work through those growing pains? What progress are you really having him make by sitting there and letting him throw 11 passes? That's absolutely ridiculous. It's not right. It's not fair. Let him throw the ball. This is so awful. These pass catchers in Chicago can literally do nothing because you refuse to actually throw the ball. Those are my big losers, and it's a shame because they have some serious talent over there. Rant over.
Hey, no, that's good. I mean, hey, we need to start giving Stefan Diggs a little bit more respect out there as maybe the best wide receiver in the game. I know we're going to talk about Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. They're going to get all their kind of accolades throughout the season. But Diggs is the first player since Steve Smith back in 2007 to produce 250 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns in his team's first 2 games. That season, that 2007 season for Steve Smith, that was a triple crown season. That was the last triple crown prior to Cooper Kupp doing what Cooper Kupp did last year. So let's give a little bit of respect there for Stefan Diggs. And then for me, my winners and losers, hey, Major, is it too soon to say that Deebo Samuel is the real winner in week number 2? I mean,
way too soon.
I hate the fact that the young man there, Lance, he's done and out for the season. But you made mention to it a little bit earlier. This offense runs a little bit different when Jimmy Garoppolo is there and when he's taking care of things. And I mean, we know what Deebo Samuel can do with Jimmy Garoppolo. We've seen that. The proof is in the pudding there, so to speak, after Deebo Samuel basically was a top 5 wide receiver last season. That was not happening with Trey Lance this year. Even before the season began, we knew that Deebo Samuel may take a little bit of a regression there because Trey Lance was going to run the ball a little bit more. Jimmy G, he ain't about that life. He ain't going to take off and run anytime soon. And my losers this week, I am sorry, Raiders fans. I am sorry, Cleveland Browns fans. I am sorry, Baltimore Ravens fans. Your teams are all losers for blowing leads. Look, 30-17 with less than 2 minutes left. The Browns end up blowing that game. The Baltimore Ravens, they had that game in the bag in the third quarter against Miami Dolphins. Tua said, no, not so fast. And the Raiders, they were up 20-0, and they blew it. You're all losers. Get out of here. All right. Now, two teams that took losses there in week number 2, they happen to be facing off on Thursday Night Football. Cleveland Browns, they are looking for a redemption of sorts after what happened against the New York Football Jets there. Meanwhile, I can't explain what happened to Pittsburgh because I don't think anyone actually knows what happened. Maybe Mitch Trubisky's what happened to Pittsburgh. Maybe it's simple as that. But Major, let's talk some props and let's preview Thursday Night Football. What do you got for us?
Yeah, man. Go ahead and check out Underdog Fantasy app for all your player prop needs. If you use promo code FANTASYPTS, that's again Fantasy PTS, Underdog will match up to $100. Go get that money. I use them. Great friend of Fantasy Points. But let's get into the props. I have Pat Freiermuth higher than 37.5 receiving yards. I'm a big Muth fan. Week 1, Muth had 75 yards. Week 2, he only had 22. So let's average that out to like 48.5. That's still higher than a 37.5. So we're winning there. I also like that he's playing 85% of the snaps with 9 receptions on 17 targets. Cleveland has a good defense overall, but for the Cleveland Browns, I'm gonna go higher to 2.5 receptions for Donovan Peoples-Jones. Week 1, DPJ had 11 targets, 6 receptions. Game 2, a whole lot of nothing. So we're gonna average it out. I'm gonna think that last game was just like a fluke, and I think he is the wide receiver 2 on that team, and I'm pretty sure he can get 3 receptions in this coming week, right?
You'd like to think so. Now, the problem I have with the Cleveland Browns in general is I can't trust any of them. We just talked about week 1 was the Donovan Peoples-Jones week with 11 targets. Then we seen Amari Cooper get his 10 targets, 9 receptions, 101 yards, touchdown, 90 PFF grade of 90, and Peoples-Jones completely being skunked. I can't trust anything here, but you've got to imagine 2.5 receptions is possible. And for Freiermuth, there's the top 3 targeted tight ends in the National Football League are Freiermuth, Mark Andrews, and Tyler Higby. So opportunity leads production most of the time, unless you're Tyler Higby. So I think 37.5, I'm hitting that over all day long. Now, Tera, what do you got for us here? Oh, and by the way, I almost had a tear in my eye as Major was reading his props. Did you see all the stats that he was using?
I'm trying to learn that.
Yeah.
I feel like a proud mama hen when Major starts using stats on a show. I mean, this is fantastic. Now, Tera, do you got some stats for us? Can you give us a little bit of a DFS insight into Thursday Night Football?
Oddly enough, I don't have a lot of stats in this one because, as you mentioned, Matt, there's not a lot to trust on here. So for me, with this Thursday night game, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, a hard-fought battle on the ground. And if there's anyone that you can trust, and it's certainly not the wide receivers, but you can trust Nick Chubb. He is extremely trustworthy, and he is also, it's shown, he is the highest priced player on DraftKings. But he is a must in every lineup. If there is someone who is going to be incredibly reliable, it is going to be Nick Chubb. And Kareem Hunt is also very reasonably priced. He had a fantastic week 1. He came back down to earth a little bit, but I would expect this to be a decent bounce back game for him. I wouldn't mind doubling up at running back for Cleveland in my lineup and going with both Chubb and Hunt. Moving on to running backs on the other side, I'm not a big fan of Najee at his pricing. Personally, I would prefer not to utilize him just because I don't think the output is really going to match. The only way I would work him into a lineup would be as a contrarian option. Other than that, kickers and defenses should really play a large role in your lineups in a game like this. And again, I'm not really interested in Pittsburgh as a whole. But, Major provided some good stats as well that I kind of agree on, that if I'm looking at those Pittsburgh players, I am looking at Pat Freiermuth. He's reasonably priced. He's going to be someone that is going to get targets, can have a high potential output. And I would focus on that, Pat Freiermuth, possibly Mitch Trubisky, just being a quarterback that is very actually cheap because, well, he's not the most reliable as well. And then Deontay as well for maybe a little nice bounce back game for him.
And then for the breakdown of the game here, I mean, we really have to look at the quarterback position when it's all said and done. We know that Deandre Johnson is going to get his 30% target share. I mean, he's done this more often than anyone else in the league right now. Only Amon-Ra St. Brown and Cooper Kupp have had 30% target shares in both contests so far this season. So you know Deandre Johnson's going to get that. Unfortunately, he doesn't do nothing with it. With all these targets, with all these everything he's got. I mean, he's got 12 targets in like 24 games over the last couple seasons, which is more than anyone else has. I think the next closest guy in that category has about 20 or 19 targets. So yet we're looking at a guy right now who's getting over 20 targets so far in 2 weeks with only 112 receiving yards. Why is that? It's because Mitch Trubisky, he's actually somehow gotten worse than Ben Roethlisberger. Roethlisberger had a 6.2 yards per attempt last season. Mitch Trubisky sitting at 5.1. But look, more than this, I've got these numbers right in front of me because I already did my show preview, which again, you can catch on the YouTube channel here. Of the 71 passes that Trubisky has attempted, he has 15 of those have been behind the line of scrimmage, as opposed to only 20 being 20 yards down the field. Last week, 14 of 21 completions for Trubisky came within 6 yards of the line of scrimmage. 1 of 4 completions was beyond 20 yards. And then, of course, Trubisky has that left side of the field tunnel vision. It was there again against New England. 14 of 17 passes completed were on that side. Meanwhile, 7 of 16 to the right. He's able to make passes to the left. He can't do squat on the right, and teams know this. But more than anything, this game's going to get interesting for me because if Joe Flacco can throw for 300-plus yards, maybe there's a glimpse of hope that Trubisky can do something. Maybe Pickens can get involved. Maybe Chase Claypool can get involved. Someone's got to get involved in this passing game for Pittsburgh this week. If there's going to be a week, it's going to be this week because Cleveland has struggled against the pass. But then again, Trubisky, as bad as he has, I can justify why he's been horrible. He's getting on average 1.1 second in the pocket. Guys like Joe Burrow, Russell Wilson, they're all in that 1.1 second category. And look what's happening to them this season. They're not getting the production that we want. Meanwhile, Josh Allen, 1.9 seconds in the pocket. Patrick Mahomes, 2.4 seconds in the pocket. Justin Herbert, 2.7. That makes a big difference. I mean, they're different level kind of quarterbacks, but they're getting time to make passes. Meanwhile, Trubisky doesn't have that time. And it's showing with the stats here. Stats. Now, that all said, that has been your Thursday Night Football preview here. Broken down. We got props, we got DFS, and a quick little game breakdown. But we're not done breaking it down because we got a little bit of 1v1 this week as Major is looking to get on the board here with a victory over me, which is not happening because he's taking the side of Najee Harris, outperforming Nick Chubb. And Tera just told us Nick Chubb is the man to play this week, and she's not worried. She don't like Najee Harris because he costs too much, and he's only got one leg. Let's be honest. Let's call it the way it is.
How do you always how do you always put all the odds in your favor before we even say any words? Like, wow.
That's how good I am. Don't worry. I've got a special treat for you two to seal the deal this week. Not that I need to seal the deal, but I'm going to seal the deal anyway because I can. Now, Major, the floor is yours. Please tell us why Najee Harris is going to outperform Nick Chubb this week.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I love both of these running backs. They're two of my favorite. Nick Chubb is actually one of my favorite running backs in the whole league. I love his style. But for this game, Najee Harris is one of those rare running backs where the team is his. When he's healthy, he's on the field 90% of the time. But, Harris is dealing with that foot injury pretty much all season. And I think it's going to affect him for the rest of the season. So I think he's just going to have to get used to it. But week 1, he only played 59% of the snaps. But week 2, he found a way to man up a little bit, I guess, and deal with the pain and boost his snaps up to 71%. And that's where we like him, 70 to 80% of the snaps. And he's also doing it again in a passing game with 7 receptions, 43 yards and a touchdown. But most of the Steelers' backfield belongs to him. There's no one else that can compete with him in that backfield when he's healthy. And unlike Chubb, Chubb's going to share the backfield with with maybe one for sure, maybe even 2 running backs at the end of the day. So I'm going to just let you have that, something real simple and easy. Nick Chubb is the man, but Najee is just one of those rare running backs in today's game where the offense he's the only running back in that offense.
You done? That's it?
That's what done.
That's
easy.
What I have to, oh, man. You're right.
Easy.
You know what? As a good defendant here, I'm going to tear down Najee Harris before I build up Nick Chubb.
We didn't know he was doing that, though. When did we get the rules? What?
I'm going to tell you right now that I still can't get behind Najee Harris. Week to week, that injury risk is greater and greater compared to the other backs in the league. Liz Frey concerns in the offseason. Then we had the ankle concerns there in week number 1. Now he's played through, again, he's done all this and whatever, but now look at the numbers. They haven't added up for him. Even when we look at the previous week here, he's not producing. He's not doing what we want him to do. Najee Harris, he's seen 76.9% and 70% of the running back shares in the first 2 games this season. The year before, he only had 3 games in which he dipped below 77%. He's already dipped below that twice this season. Maybe it's the 381 yards or touches and carries that he's had last season that are starting to add up, or maybe it's because he's not very good. Oh, wait, what's this? Oh, wait, how did this come up? Wait, what's going on? Oh, wait, what? There's a hole. See, what? Maybe he just can't see the hole anymore. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's why he's not good. Hey, Nick Chubb, he ain't missing that. I'll tell you that right now. Now, I could probably stop right now and not even have to defend Nick Chubb any further. But look, now Nick Chubb, in 2 games, I know it's the Jets. I know it's the Panthers. He's averaging 23.8 fantasy points per game, 3 touchdowns last week. So that definitely helped those numbers. Against Carolina, he had 141 yards on the ground, 87 more against the Jets, 26 more yards in receptions against the Jets. Yet the Browns, they still collapsed in monumental proportions there. So I'm not even going to blame Nick Chubb for not going down and taking that. I mean, that touchdown that he scored there, he could have gone out of bounds or he could have went down. It put the team up by 2 touchdowns. Let's face it. This week, Chubb is facing a Steelers team that allowed Joe Mixon 82 rushing yards, 63 receiving yards in week 1. Then Damian Harris got 71. Ramondre Stevenson had 47. That's 118 yards on 24 carries. The Steelers have allowed 25.5 fantasy points per game to opposing backs. Yeah, I feel pretty good about Chubb this week. Plus, like I said, the proof is in the pudding. You've seen the picture. You've seen the video. You can't deny that.
How do we continue to allow this man to cheat every week? So, like last week, remember last week? This show's under protest just like last week.
All I have to say is I just want to go find Najee Harris and give him a hug. That was savage. Man, you went in. You went in.
I fell asleep a couple times, but the video, that was a new twist. Now we have to like get new tools and stuff, and we have to get a whole team of people to like battle, I guess now. But
that's okay, Major. We're gonna come prepared. Obviously we have.
No, he's gonna change the rules. Stuff. No, he's gonna change the rules again. It's gonna be like 2 videos for him. Like it's getting kind of ridiculous now that
Matthew pulling up video phone and just be like, hey.
That's should I start my victory lap this right now? Should I get into it because it's over? It's over.
Wait, he cheats and then he has all his friends on Twitter like vote for him.
Now
he can't win. It's all
speaking
good.
Of our friends on Twitter, we are going to answer some of their questions here real quick, rapid fire style, because we have to get on to week number 3 here. So, and we got to talk waivers. We got to get a bunch of stuff in here. So, Tera, right off to you here. Jets wide receiver room is full of talent. We know Garrett Wilson's there. He's looking like Flacco's number 1. How does Zach Wilson's inevitable return change that equation, if at all?
It doesn't. They're still going to have to throw for volume. It's pure volume. It may ding them a little bit, but I mean, we had a small sample size last year with Zach Wilson returning and Elijah Moore still being a viable option. So I don't think it's going to be the major impact that people expect it to be.
Speaking of major impacts, not only is Najee Harris not being able to hit a hole a major impact, but Major, is Darnell Moody and the rest of the Bears pass catchers droppable at this time?
Yes, you drop them yesterday. Like, not one receiver. And I know you're a Moody guy. I know that's your dude, but like, this is getting pretty ridiculous. I don't know if it's them. The quarterback, he looks pretty good to me. He's not like garbage. The offensive line is like protecting just enough for him to throw the ball, but I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the coach. I don't know. There's something going on there where the receivers can't. I was really surprised they didn't try to go and get anyone. Like, they didn't even attempt to get like a veteran receiver out of waivers. When, after cut day, there were some good big names out there. It just doesn't make any sense. I know they're trying to tank a little bit here, but I don't know for who. Like, who are you tanking for? You already have a quarterback, unless you're trying to get rid of that quarterback.
I kind of answered this question later as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, I need to know the answer. Yeah, because I'm like confused.
Now, this next question you kind of answered here already, but should I keep Pitts for the long term and just stream a tight end until he can consistently get more involved, Tera?
Yeah. Although it's risky. It's tight end streamers. It's slim pickings out there, so you better get on it.
All right, Major. This one's for you. Full PPR. Tyler Lockett or Cam Akers?
That's what you did.
Neither.
And I'm gonna go with Cam. He's starting to get his footing back. It's just the line is not working. Maybe he's a tick too slow. Something is off with the chemistry there for a second, but he is looking like he's getting back into the swing of things. He just kind of missed a few. There was no holes for him to run through last week. I'm just going to chalk it up to that. So once the line gets together, the running back is back. I'm going to go with Cam in the long run.
All right. And Tera, for you. Now, this one had me going back and forth a few times. A.J. Brown and Amon-Ra St. Brown or Gabriel Davis and Jamar Chase?
A.J. and Amon-Ra.
That's where I ended up going to, is A.J. and Amon-Ra.
Anytime you have Chase, though, you gotta, man, Chase is just a different type of monster. They can protect him for more than 3 seconds. Like they can protect Burrow. Like he can outscore everyone by himself every week. So I'm gonna go with Chase.
Tera, let me go a little bit deeper here because the original trade offer that I was working with a guy in my DMs here. Originally, it was A.J. Brown and Amon-Ra St. Brown for Jamar Chase and Austin Eckler. He was able to get Eckler out of that equation and bring in Gabriel Davis instead of Eckler.
I mean, running back is a more critical position, so I would rather have Eckler, honestly. But I mean, the separation between Jamar Chase and A.J. Brown in terms of talent, it doesn't exist for me, in my opinion. The only issue with A.J. Brown is his inability to stay healthy and consistent. And I think, this is going to be the perfect test. Can he stay healthy and be locked in the entire season with Jalen Hurts? So yeah, it's not a talent discrepancy. I mean, A.J. Brown is an absolute monster as well.
You got to remember, this was just a redraft kind of proposal there. So for me, that's why it was so much easier there, because I still don't know what's going on with Cincinnati's offensive line. That's going to hamper. It's going to kind of max that ceiling a little, for me at least, with Jamar Chase. Now, both of you here, real quick, Major first. Terry McLaurin or Mike Evans rest of the season?
Mike Evans.
We got to go Mike Evans because Brady owes that man a little bit. So I think he's going to get well taken care of.
And Tera, you're on team Mike Evans as well?
I am.
He's looking for that 9th straight 1,000-yard season. I'm pretty sure he's already got that in the bag now, barring injury, now that Tom Brady's going to take care of him there. Plus, Terry McLaurin, we look at this wide receiver core for the Washington Commanders. We're looking at 3 wide receivers in a full-out wide receiver by committee type approach, which is not a bad thing. I mean, these guys are all getting theirs. I think last week, Curtis Samuel and Terry McLaurin had 66% of the snaps. Meanwhile, Jihan Dodson had 72 of the snaps there. So Jihan Dodson's actually out-snapping them. The targets are going to Curtis Samuel. I don't know who's going to be that big play guy. I mean, Jihan Dodson, I think he's got 3 touchdowns this season, or at least 2 of them. It's 3 touchdowns that Jihan Dodson's already got. So he's the touchdown maker for this Washington Commanders offense. I mean, yeah, Mike Evans is going to be that guy for Tampa, where Terry McLaurin, he might have a week here and there. Next week against Darius Slay probably isn't going to be that week.
Exactly.
So now on to waivers here. Major, what do you got? Who are 2 players that you're looking at targeting here on the waiver wire?
Yeah, so my first one, I got to go with the low-hanging fruit. I got to go with Jimmy G. He's only owned in like 7% of rosters right now on Sleeper. Jimmy came into the game after Lance got hurt and had a pretty good game. 13 completions, 154 yards, and a touchdown. And any quarterback that can throw to Debo, like, again, I say there's only about 5 or 6 players in the league who can, like, take a 0 play and turn it into, like, a 100-yard play, and Debo is one of those guys. So whenever you have an opportunity to throw to him, your numbers automatically going to look a little bit better. My second guy here, I'm going to go with Noah Brown from Dallas Cowboys. No one knows who this receiver is. No one knows where he came from. But the last 2 games, Mr. Brown's carved out like a pretty huge role in the Cowboys offense. We all thought CeeDee Lamb was going to be the man, but it's this random guy named Noah Brown. $5 to anyone know what college you went to? All right, yeah, that didn't work. So yeah, but yeah, he's balling out, man. He has 10 receptions so far, 159 yards and a touchdown. But the thing that's eye-popping to me, he's playing 87% of the snaps. Like, he's out there as a starter. He's like the main guy. And it seems like maybe him being a no one, maybe him and Cooper kind of work together with the second team. So there may be some chemistry there due to that. But yeah, those two guys you got to go grab right now.
All right, thanks for that. Tera, what do you got for us? Who are some of the guys you're grabbing off the waivers this week?
So I honestly agree a ton with Major on Noah Brown. Just wanted to kind of point out, like, I think this one is really like a legitimate ad, and that this is something that's actually going to stick for the duration of Cooper Rush, because the thing you have to remember, Cooper Rush is the backup quarterback. Who do you think he was connecting with the most? Noah Brown. It makes so much sense that they have such a fantastic connection, and that's probably going to carry through. Just wanted to say that real quick, because I'm not going to talk about my number one waiver ad, Jihan Dodson, very much, because we already covered it a ton. I think we know exactly why we want to go grab him. The touchdowns, the opportunities, the snaps. Matt talked about all of that. Carson Wentz is balling. We've talked about literally every single reason that you want to go grab Jihan Dodson. And then I want to talk about my deep waiver ad here for a second. Ashton Dolan. It's funny. Indianapolis looks like a complete mess. They look awful without Michael Pittman Jr. and Matt Ryan is not. It's looking like Matt Ryan was the problem this whole time, unfortunately. But the only great thing that has come out of this, aside from the fact that Michael Pittman is clearly the man, is that I think Ashton Dolan is showing that he can be the cleared wide receiver 2 in that Colts offense. And we haven't seen anyone for a while now be able to step up to that level. We've been sitting here waiting to see who could step up. Major loves himself some Paris Campbell, and we've seen now that it's not Paris Campbell. Ashton Dolan had a solid week 1, and then he had 6 targets behind Michael Pittman. And then in week 2, with Pittman out, he led the team in targets and had a decent amount of yardage as well, with 79 yards. I think he could be a solid option moving forward, even when Michael Pittman Jr. comes back, being the second behind him, and get a decent amount of looks and be someone that you can, stash on your bench, and definitely a good deep waiver ad for sure.
I'm going to let the little digs slide. You had a couple of digs in there. I'm going to let those go, because before you started all that, you said you agree with me 100%. Someone clip that, please.
Oh, Noah Brown, specifically Noah Brown.
So would you say when it comes to the waivers, not Paris Campbell, or never ever Paris Campbell?
So why do you have to do the extra though? It's fine. You don't have to add your 2 cents, Matt. It's okay.
I always got to add my 2 cents. I do it with video. I can do it in interpretive song and dance if you want to.
Let's not do that either. No.
Now, for me, I'm going to talk about waivers here. I'm going to talk about Sterling Shepard. It's coming. Last week, 91% route participation with 10 targets. That was 32% of a target share there, accounting for 44% of the Giants' air yards. Kadarius Toney must die so that David Stills can live. And Kenny Golladay, he had 2 snaps the entire game, making about $20 million per snap. I mean, this Giants team is absolutely a mess behind literally Sterling Shepard. And are we really talking about David Stills getting more snaps and gameplay than Kadarius Toney right now? That's where we're at in New York. So that's why you need to go out there and get yourself some Sterling Shepard. Remember, him and Daniel Jones, they had a little bit of rapport back to last season before Sterling Shepard's injury. And apparently only Cam Akers can't recover from Achilles, because Sterling Shepard's doing fine. James Robinson's doing fine. Even Ibrahim Muhammad there, whatever his name is, out of Minnesota, he's doing fine. I mean, everyone's doing fine except Cam Akers. So, and finally, my other guy, hey, every year, I know I planted my flag, and many people try to talk me off this hill on many occasions, and that is Jacoby Myers. Listen, 9 receptions, 13 targets last week. That worked out to about a 30% targets per route run. More numbers because I know Tera likes her numbers. How about 39% target share while accumulating 2.97 yards per route run while adding 36% of the Patriots' air yardage? Myers, he shouldn't be on your waivers. If you've been listening to me at all on any show since, last season, there's no way Myers should ever be on your waiver wire, ever. And yet here we are. And yes, he's still on the waivers. And you can get yourself a free number 1 wide receiver on a team. Is he going to score touchdowns? Probably not. Let's be honest here. But he's going to be that guy who's going to get you receptions. PPR, absolutely a stud. You look at what he did. 95 yards, 9 receptions. That's over 18 fantasy points right there on your waiver wire. And it's there each and every week. Go out there and go get him today.
He will never score a touchdown, though. It's like, how is that a thing?
Never say never. It's coming.
He's going to get one. He gets one every season, and everyone goes crazy. They got to give you that moment. But, you can't have, 100 receptions and 2 touchdowns. It just doesn't equate.
It's coming. It's coming. It's really coming. McCorkle loves himself some Jacoby. And I'll tell you what, it sure the heck ain't Devontae Parker. I wonder who's been saying that all off season. Now, Major, let's get into some starts and sits. Who do you got starting? Who do you got sitting at the quarterback position?
I'm going to go with someone that people don't put enough respect is on his name. Give some respect to Jared Goff. He's out here balling, man. He threw 4 touchdowns last week. He's tied for 5th with 6 touchdowns on the season. Minnesota has given up a lot of air yards, but only given up 1 touchdown. But, I think Swift and St. Brown, Hawk, Shark, they all have Goff playing with confidence. And there's nothing more dangerous than a quarterback with confidence. Even Goff, he showed you in LA that he had a little juice in him. They shipped him off. And it looked like he may have a, little second career out there in Detroit. Hopefully he does, because I kind of like what they're doing out in Detroit. I'm becoming a fan each and every time I see them play. And for my sit, man, I went with this guy as my first, my quarterback 1 for the Scott Fish Bowl, and it hurts every time I look at him because I fell for it. I fell for all the Instagrams and stuff with his wife Sierra. I fell for it. He's the nice. I thought he was a corny dude, but
yes.
But he it looked nice. He was uplifting his woman. He was in love. He's showing you how to be a man, taking care of another man's kid. He's doing a lot of stuff that is commendable. And I fell for it.
I'm going to put it this way right now. If Russell Wilson shopped at Kohl's, he'd be Kirk Cousins.
No, that is absolutely true. You get a point for that one. You get a point. But, the numbers may look way better than what they are because he's throwing for 200, 300, the first 2 games. But last week, he only completed 45% of his passes. That is no one does that. If you're a starting quarterback in the NFL, you cannot complete 45% of your passes. And the 49ers has the best pass defense in the first 2 weeks of the season. Yeah, I know some of it may be padded because they had the underwater bowl for week 1, but they're still really good. So I think Russ is not going to cook for another week, and it's kind of sad because, I feel bad for anyone who went out and got Judy and got Sutton. It's really sad.
I feel right now that when I take a can of Alphagettis and I put it on my bread and I call it Italian, I mean, that's basically what Russell Wilson's cooking is doing right now in the National Football League. Now, Tera,
I don't know what you said, but okay.
You're talking about riding the wave here. That could be a dangerous thing from week to week. Who do you got as your starts and sits here in week number 2?
Carson Wentz, keep doing it. We got to start this guy. He's the overall QB4 right now, 40 attempts and over 300 yards and a minimum of 3 touchdowns in both of these games. We talked about this earlier. I expect a couple of interceptions from him this week. He's going to be emotional. It's his little revenge game right here. And it makes sense that it's going to happen, but it doesn't really matter when you throw to the level of volume of this guy, and he's going to have to do it to keep up with Jalen Hurts. So yeah, we're starting Carson Wentz. We're keeping it going for sure. I'm doing it personally. So y'all do it with me. It's fantastic. My sit of the week, and Matt talks so glowingly about Tua. This is not a knock on Tua. I'm not a Tua hater, but we just need to pause it for 1 week right here because he is playing against Buffalo, and you can pivot to other options that are not playing against what is one of the most insane defenses I've seen in my little short lifetime here. They look absolutely incredible, monstrous. And I don't think that Tua is going to be a huge bust. I don't think he's going to tank and give you an absolutely awful game. I don't think it's going to be a QB1 game. So I think you can pivot to other options and sit Tua. I would like to be wrong on this one, but I just really believe in that Buffalo defense.
Real quickly on the Buffalo defense, prayers out to Dane Jackson there. He had that neck injury there on Monday Night Football. Nasty. He was ambulanced off to the hospital. He was released from the hospital. He's still going to do through some tests here, but hey, it's good to see that he had that full movement of all his extremities there after the game. So that's a big piece of this Buffalo Bills defense there. He's one of the better shutdown type DBs in the league today. Now, for me, my starts and sits, I'm going to go with the poor man's Carson Wentz, the Coles version of Russell Wilson. I'm going to go with Kirk Cousins because why? It's not a primetime game, so you can start Kirk Cousins with confidence. Look, the Lions are surrendering 26.25 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks, and one of those quarterbacks just happened to be Carson Wentz there last week. And the other quarterback I'm sitting, Tera, sorry, I got to do this to you right now. It's Aaron Rodgers. I can't get a real feel of this Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense right now. I don't know if they're good. I don't know if they're horrible. I can't even get a good feeling about this Green Bay offense here as far as pass catchers are concerned. But last week, the Bucs, they saw Jameis Winston go into Jameis Winston type things here. And Rodgers, I think he's going to lean heavily on this run game, especially with that injury to Akeem Hicks along the front there for Tampa Bay, which is, I think, an area in which A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, they can expose if Tampa Bay wants, or if Green Bay wants to keep competitive in this. Now, back in week one, the Vikings, they got after Aaron Rodgers, and that is something I think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can do too. I mean, it's not just about the sacks. The Vikings had 4 sacks of Rodgers, but it was the quarterback pressures. They were always in Rodgers' kitchen there. And for me, I think Tampa Bay can do the same type thing there. They can get the pressure. We've seen what they can do. Devin White coming from that second level. I think he's got 3 sacks this season. Shaq Barrett is as good as any coming off the edge. So the pressure Tampa Bay can put out there on Aaron Rodgers is going to be a problem, especially if we're still seeing these Green Bay offensive linemen not returning back to the lineup. I think, Tera, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they have 2 or 3 offensive linemen still out of their starting lineup. So that is going to be contentious here for this Green Bay Packers, Tampa Bay Buccaneers contest. So for me, I'm pivoting away from Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he really hasn't done anything this week, so you shouldn't really be pivoting to him yet so far. It's coming. I'm sure it's coming. Allen Lazard is the second coming of Jerry Rice. We've heard it all through fantasy. It's going to happen. Now, speaking of these running backs, Major, give me a start. Give me a sit at the running back position.
Man, you know I love running backs. My first one, I'm going to go with David Montgomery versus Houston. You talked about Aaron Rodgers leaning on that running game. The Monday night matchup between Montgomery and Aaron Jones was like so much fun to watch as a running back. If you love running backs, that back and forth was just like one of the best I've seen in a long time. Both of those running back styles were just amazing. Shifty, power, anything you want in running back, you've seen in that game. I loved it so much. But let's get back to Monty. He's rolling, man. And I think he's going to take some of that momentum. He rushed for 122 yards last week. I think he's going to roll that over into this week. And Texas are giving up 163 yards per game. That's a lot of yards. So I think he's going to be able to take advantage of that. And let's see, for my sit here, I'm going to go with Chase, man. I don't know what happened. I had high hopes for him. It seemed like he was going to take advantage of empty box because you had to guard Waddle and Hill, and they're going to push it downfield. So everyone's going to be out the box. I thought he was going to have a good time in the running game. And also, you know, he's already a good receiver as well. So I thought he was going to have a pretty good season. So far, it's looking like he's more of a third down back instead of a lead back with 57% of the snap share. And Buffalo defense, like Tera said, like that defense, they look like they're playoff ready. That the whole team, the whole Buffalo team, look like they're ready to go right now. They're only giving up 66 yards per game. And that's the league's best, I think. If not, it's like second best. But I'm all in on this Buffalo defense, man. And you know, just feel bad for Chase because I thought he had an opportunity to really like make a name for himself outside of Arizona.
Yeah, that's really turned into like a nightmare for fantasy owners right now. More of a 50-50 type thing where Mostert there's getting the run. Chase Edmonds is getting into the passing game, which may be beneficial this week against Buffalo. But, I mean, that Buffalo defense is another level. Now, Tera, who are your starts and sits in the running back position?
So I am our Green Bay Packers resident fan, but I am not biased. You need to start Leonard Fournette against Green Bay. Green Bay's run defense is absolutely atrocious. It is horrible. It is so horrible that down 14, Chicago opted to say, no, we're just going to run the ball. We're not going to throw. We're just going to continue to run because this is our best path of success against the Packers. They are absolutely horrible against the run. On top of all of that, Tampa Bay is down literally all of their starting wide receivers. This is a big setup for Leonard Fournette to thrive and to feast. And Leonard Fournette, first of all, do we not love when football players literally come out and talk to us directly as fantasy football managers? Like Leonard Fournette, hats off to you. I love when players do that. He came and he told us the touchdowns are coming. He said he's coming to save our teams. I believe Leonard Fournette. Start him. In my sit for this week, I guess it kind of aligns with Major over here that is sitting Chase Edmonds. I'm sitting Raheem Mostert as well. This is not an ideal backfield by any means. They're splitting. It is not a good split. There is not enough work for either of them because, again, despite Mike McDaniel coming over from the school of Kyle Shanahan, he's shown that he doesn't have to stay aggressively committed to the run. He's got all these fantastic receiving weapons. They're going to throw the ball, and it's just not benefiting the running game in the same way that a lot of people expected it to maybe mimic San Francisco. It's not happening. So maybe you're going and grabbing Raheem Mostert off waivers, and good for you. Maybe that, hey, maybe it can work out in the long term at some point because he, does seem to have the edge over Chase Edmonds. But again, this is not the week to do it. We've talked about Buffalo on in. Don't do it. Do not start Raheem Mostert this week.
You know who else you shouldn't start anymore? Derrick Henry. I've been saying Derrick Henry's trash for how long now? And I'm going to tell you right now, Josh Jacobs is going to outscore Derrick Henry this week in that Titans-Raiders matchup. Hey, don't be looking at me. I'm telling you right now, I've said this. I've said this for a long time. Maybe you thought I was joking. Maybe you didn't think I was serious. But no, listen, Josh Jacobs, I am looking to recover from a broken heart from a week ago. I mean, all the Raiders had to do was run the ball. They were up 20-0. Run the ball. You got a guy averaging 5.7 yards per carry. Run the ball. They will not make this mistake a second time there against Tennessee. They're going to get up. Even Josh McDaniels cannot be that stupid 2 weeks in a row. I mean,
yes, he can.
I don't know what's going on. I just can't. But Tennessee is allowing 35.8 fantasy points per game to the running back position. And Jacobs, while he wasn't used very much, he has 129 rushing yards on 29 carries this season for 4.3 yards per carry. So that's an advantage that hopefully the Raiders can take advantage. I mean, I'm not a smart guy by any stretch of anyone's imagination, but even I can say that, hey, maybe running the ball could work here. Now, the guy I'm going to sit is going to shock everyone again. Hey, last week I said sit Tom Brady. Last week I said sit Najee Harris. I still feel good about both those sits. I feel that those are good plays on my part. But this week, I'm going to say you have to sit Austin Eckler. I mean, we're talking about Kyle Pitts and how we're ready to have him sitting there. But Austin Eckler, say, what? Austin Eckler is averaging 2.7 yards per carry. Major, is 2.7 yards per carry good? Come on. You're the running back. Is 2.7 yards per carry good?
No, not at all.
No. It's horrible. It's trash. Get that out of here. He has 75 yards on the ground, and he has yet to score a touchdown. The 10th, and it's not just that, he has the 10th most attempts on the ground this season and the 50th most yards per carry. That's not a good combination. At least he's getting some targets. I mean, he's got 14 of them leading to 91 yards, but no touchdowns after 20 touchdowns last season. I'm getting him out of my lineup. Until he starts to put up some production, I don't want to put him out there. We're talking about winning week in and week out. Sometimes you have to take your good players like Major, have a little pep talk, sit him on the bench like Cam Akers, and tell him, you're not going back in until you can show me something. And that's what I'm saying with Austin Eckler right now. And I know Tera's trying everything she can to bite her tongue. I can see the disgust in her face. People, if you're watching this on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, you have to catch the video because you cannot put into words what I am looking at right now. And I'm not even going to give her a chance to come back because we're moving to the wide receiver position. Major, who are your starts and sits at the wide receiver position this week?
This dude is a maniac. I'm gonna go with Cooper Kupp, man. Like, he's one of the best receivers in the NFL. He's already has 24 receptions, 236 yards, and 3 TDs. Arizona is second to last in receiving yards per game, giving up 306 per game. It just doesn't add up. To me, it seems like Stafford only has eyes for Cooper Kupp. We explained earlier, if you have any player, if you know a Cooper, get next to that Cooper, make him your best friend because Coopers are taking over right now. So look for Cooper Kupp to continue to tear through the NFL, and Arizona is going to be lunch meat. For my sit, I'm going to go with Julio Jones. You might think with Mike Evans being out with the fight, like Matt said earlier, he appealed it. He may come back, but I don't know if Mitchell Jones still has what it takes to be the wide receiver 1. So with Mike Evans out, the defense is going to be looking, Green Bay's defense is going to be looking at Julio. And, Tera talked about him a little bit, but they got the third best, reception defense in the league right now. So I'm going to think that they can game plan Julio Jones at this point in his career. So I'm going to not go with Julio, look towards Bashard or someone else like that this week to make up that slack.
I like how all three of us chose not to overthink the wide receiver position this week in our starts and sits. Kudos to each and every one of us on this. Tera, who are your starts and sits at the wide receiver position?
First of all, we do not stand against Austin.
He muted her? I know you didn't mute her. I think he muted you.
He muted me?
I think he muted you. I think this dude is getting out of control now. He's just getting out of control.
Can I speak now?
Raising your hand now, like,
you know what? It's fine. We'll settle this another time. We will. You guys see my name, Austin Eckler, Stan account. We will not slander Austin Eckler. We will fight it out, Matt. We will fight it out. Anyway, contrary to what Matt said, that we all just kind of like mailed in the wide receiver start. This one, it may seem obvious, but actually, I know this. If you drafted Rashad Bateman in a shallow league because of his ADP and where you drafted him, it is very possible that you're actually able to bench Rashad Bateman because you have wide receiver 1, 2, and 3s that you drafted ahead of him. At least 2 of them. So it is in the realm of possibility. I know this because I play in a couple shallow leagues where I did in fact draft Rashad Bateman, and he is actually able to be a bench player. So I'm just here to tell you that I don't care who you have to bench to get him into your lineup. I don't care how shallow the league is. You need to start Rashad Bateman, period. That is it. And my wide receiver sit of the week. My wide receiver sit of the week is it's Darnell Moody. And I said that I had a little bit of an explanation earlier. We were talking about, do you drop Darnell Moody? And I said I had a little thing to touch on that. We don't need Darnell Moody and Cole Kmet. Don't drop them this week. We're giving it one more week, and here's the reason why. In the first game, all pass catchers on both sides with Chicago and San Francisco, we gave them a pass because of the weather. Even Deebo Samuel could only catch 2 passes in that game, so that's a little bit of a wash. And I talked about that Green Bay run defense. I'm saying there's a sliver of hope, that Green Bay's defense was just so horrific against the run that it was mildly justifiable to actually abandon the pass and just try to run it down their throat. And Chicago legitimately thought that was the best course of action. So there's a chance, there's a sliver that we could still see Mooney be productive in this game against Houston. I think this is the time for us to look at this game, and this is what we'll make our decision off of if Mooney and Kmet are actually droppables. So sit him, watch and see, and then make your decisions from there.
And before you go, Matt, I'm just going to have to give you a little, I don't know how many like women or black women at that case, she said, You made her go, we're going to deal with that later. Whenever you hear that, you're dead. So, RIP to the homie Matt. Nice knowing you, man. You're a good dude, but I don't know what to tell you, man.
Well, I'll start off by saying this right off the get-go. Tara's absolutely right when it comes to Darnell Moody. It actually pains me to say this because I just went off on the whole Austin Eckler thing and say, hey, you got to get your butt on the bench until you can show me something. Darnell Moody's in that same boat. I'm like, I'm not putting him in my lineup until I can see him to do something. And if you can't do something against Houston, then we do have a problem. I mean, it is that simple. Cole Kmet, Darnell Mooney. And when you're getting outperformed by equanimous St. Brown, Tera, you know him from Green Bay. That's not good. I mean, true. I mean, he's not even the good St. Brown. The good St. Brown, you're starting. You're starting Amon-Ra St. Brown. You got to consider him a must start each and every week. No matter what I don't care if the question comes up, AJ Brown or St. Brown, it's St. Brown. I'm telling you that right now. Look, when you look at this, St. Brown has posted 8 consecutive 30-plus target share type games here. More of his greatness here on this list of players in NFL history with 8-plus catches in 8 straight games: Antonio Brown, Michael Thomas, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's the list. That is it. He is going in your lineup. 8 straight games with 8-plus catches. He's also got 8 straight games with 30% or more target share. Amon-Ra St. Brown is this year's Cooper Kupp, or last year's Cooper Kupp. That's where we are with St. Brown. I'm all in it. We just talked about Rashad Bateman. You got him a little bit of discount, 7th round, 8th round. Amon-Ra St. Brown wasn't coming any much further ahead of him. You're getting him in the 6th in a lot of leagues to start up. I mean, there's a league winner right there. Bateman and St. Brown are your league winners so far through 2 weeks. I don't think that's going to change. And for me, I am sitting Terry McLaurin this week. As much as Wentz has been able to spread the ball around, I mean, good on him. This feels like one of those games where McLaurin, he's going to go up against Darius Slay, and there ain't nobody I am starting against Darius Slay after seeing what he had done to Justin Jefferson. Oh. Next Gen Stats had Justin Jefferson with 1 reception when Slay was the closest defender to him. Not the guy on him. He was 0 for 4 with Slay on him in coverage. 1 of 5 when Slay was the closest defender, and Slay had 2 picks. Terry McLaurin is going to have Darius Slay for most of this competition. I really like Jihan Dodson. I really like Curtis Samuel out of the slot. James Bradbury's a good corner on the other side. So look at whoever's in the slot to get Avonte Maddox here, and that's an advantage I think that Washington can look to take advantage of. So Terry McLaurin is a sit for me. Now let's move along to the tight end position, which, by the way, I got in on early this week, so kudos to me. Major, who do you got starting? Who do you got sitting this week?
I mean, do we still have to do the tight ends anymore, man? It seems like the league has gone away from the tight ends a little bit, but I'm going to go with, Tara kind of made fun of you with, the Mooney and all that stuff. I'm going to try to bring it back. And also with the Eckler thing, too, I caught that. Remember I was saying is the age, and remember that? I caught that. Running back guru here. But I'm going to go with Darren Waller versus Tennessee. Waller's still one of the best tight ends in the game. Last week, he played 55% of the snaps, but still managed to have 6 receptions, 50 yards, and 1 touchdown. I don't think he has any injuries or anything like that, Matt. You could probably help me out there. So I think that share the snap should go up a little bit more this week. And I think, Tennessee's a middle of the road defense. They're giving up 252 yards through the air per game. So I think he's going to have an opportunity to take advantage of that. And, for my sits, I'm going to have to go with this one because I fell victim to this guy so many times in fantasy. Whenever he's balling out, whenever it looks pretty good, you always know to sit this man, and that's Tyler Higby against Arizona. I think he's going to be the man left standing, alone out there because, last week had a pretty good game, 7 receptions, 70 yards, but the Rams have to find a way to get A-Rob more targets, and I think it's going to come from Higby. Kupp is going to get his chunk of target. So he's going to be the man left out in the open there. They're going to get those running backs in the game a little bit more. We've seen in the past the tight end is not that big is not really schemed into that offense as much as like the slot receivers and the outside receivers and running back. So again, when Tyler Higby shows you he's balling out, you should probably bench him the next game.
Plus, Tyler Higby's a jerk. Tera, over to you.
I missed that one, but yeah, what do you do?
Yes. We talked about it before.
I don't.
We didn't talk about it.
Every week we talk about it. I call him a jerk every week.
Okay.
For me, I'm going to go with a streamer. Waller's very obvious. Technically, Matt's is I don't know if he's gone from streamer to everyday starter because he's going up over 50% now. But if you need a streamer, the deal is that you stream whoever is playing against Las Vegas because it is a tried and true method. Now, this method will be tested this week. This is going to be a big test because the tight end who is playing them is Austin Hooper, who has not had success at all this season. In fact, he's had 2 catches this season. So maybe the bench line is, does he get 4 catches? And then you say, wow, yeah, that's a tried and true method. Yeah, you start whoever is playing against method or against Las Vegas. But yeah, I love to gamble. So I'm going to bet against the Raiders defense. And my sit of the week at tight end, some of y'all got a little too cute thinking that Taysom Hill was someone that you could actually start. Y'all were picking him up off waivers. You were thinking, oh yeah, I got a steal. You did not. Taysom Hill, I am so sorry. He is not a viable start because you have to remember he is a gadget player. There is no rhyme or reason to when he will actually be usable, and you will put him into your starting lineup and he will give you absolutely nothing. And then when he's on your bench, suddenly he'll go off randomly. There is no logic to it. Last week would have made sense. Alvin Kamara was down. Maybe that would have been the time for him to actually go off. And guess what? He didn't. This is not a guy that you want to utilize in the tight end position or unless you're in an extremely deep and desperate league. So yeah, no Taysom Hill.
If Hooper doesn't make a sound, did he really ever exist? I mean, that's a question of philosophical proportions here.
But Tera, you didn't have to like smash on mine and then smash on Matt's before he even said it to like qualify yours. You could have just said who you were going to like go with.
I love Gerald Everett, so I can't so he got in there and stole my man. So
yeah, I go flat out and say I made sure I got in here before Tera did because I knew exactly where Tera was going to go each and every week here with Gerald Everett because she's right. You start him each and every week now because every year, I have to say this, every show, there is a tight end that rises from the ashes of the tight end wasteland, whether it's Logan Thomas or Dalton Schultz. This year, it seems that Gerald Everett has ascended to that throne. He is averaging 13.8 fantasy points per game while being targeted 14 times, hauling in 9 passes for 125 yards and a touchdown. The thing is, though, he's probably got to work on his cardio a little bit because he seemed a little gassed on that one interception there against the Kansas City Chiefs. So, Everett, we got to get you a little bit of cardio there, man. I'm probably the last person to be saying this to anybody. But I am going to throw it out there. As a professional armchair general manager, you need to get in shape, man. Now, I've already chosen violence on this show. We've already talked about guys I'm sitting. I've already muted Tera once this show. Now, the other player I'm sitting right now at the tight end position, it is Kyle Pitts. It's time, at least until we see something. He's basically a more expensive version of Cole Kmet at this point. Back-to-back weeks, 2 catches, 19 yards, 0 touchdowns. Pitts, he saw a lead participation in week 2 with a 91% route participation. However, a 13% target share. This while the Falcons, they lead the NFL in 12 personnel running at 52% of the time. So 52% of the time, the tight ends have 2 tight ends out there. And Kyle Pitts, he's got 4 receptions. You sit him until he does something. I am sorry. This goes with Austin Eckler. This goes with anyone I'm talking about. Until you do something, I'm going to put you on the bench because I'm in it to win fantasy championships. Unlike Arthur Smith, I'm here to win fantasy. Fantasy is important to me. I'm not here about just winning games. And by the way, I am going to win games.
Neither is Arthur Smith.
No, he's not. He don't care about fantasy. He don't care. He's all about winning games. Well, apparently not. Let's be honest.
Right.
But this is where we're at with Kyle Pitts. So until Arthur Smith decides that he wants to win some games, you know what? I think he's probably I think he's playing Kyle Pitts in fantasy right now. That's probably why he's not giving him targets and stuff. That and Marcus Mariota hasn't really been good because we're looking at Kyle Pitts and where his splits are, wide receiver versus tight end. He's in that tight end a little bit more often. This is telling me this is more about Kyle Pitts or Marcus Mariota not being able to get the ball to him. If you want to get the ball, you got to go to fantasypoints.com because we like to score more over there. And if you go there today, right now, get a subscription, grab one of those packages, golf, college football, DFS, NFL, fantasy, whatever you want. Use promo code 22Vipers10 and we'll get you 10% off that subscription today. Tell them Major sent you. Tell them Tera sent you. Tell them the Austin Eckler Stan account sent you. I don't care who it is. We're sending you there right now because we want to help you win. Get those starts and sits, get those waivers, and each and every week, hit us up in our DMs. Let us know what kind of questions you have out there. Trade questions, starts and sits, waivers. We're going to get them, and we're going to put them on the show. And I might even clip them and send them to you personal because, hey, I'm all about that life. With that all being said, this has been the Dynasty Vipers Vipercast, episode 147, presented by the Fantasy Points Media Group. And we will see you same time each and every week. So take care till then. Bye.